I was working on a video about the killing of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo by the hands of ICE agents when I heard the news about Johann Sebastian Duran Guerrero. And then while I was making this video about the both of them, I then heard news that someone else in Florida was struck by a semi-truck while fleeing ICE agents. Both Araujo and Guerrero were not the intended targets by ICE agents either. According to DHS, Araujo's van was stopped because one of the agents thought that someone in the van resembled a target that they were looking for. In the case of Guerrero, there was talk of a warrant, but that warrant did not have his name on it. The official statements given by DHS in response to these killings is largely disingenuous, and I personally find it insulting. In the case of Araujo, they claim that he weaponized his vehicle, that he attempted to run over an ICE agent, and that ICE agent shot back in self-defense. However, according to Hugo Balderas, representing 2 of the 3 people in Araujo's van, that does not match with their own personal experiences. They claim that there was never a time in which an ICE agent was directly in front of the vehicle, and the bullet holes, or the shots, came from the side, not from the front. Also, if you're claiming that you're acting in self-defense by shooting a driver because they're approaching you or someone else, that doesn't stop the threat. Shooting a driver only causes the vehicle to lose control, which can make things much more dangerous. Multiple clips have also surfaced of Araujo's van being chased by multiple unmarked vehicles. And that's something that really needs to be spoken about, because the thing about unmarked vehicles, about undercover cops, is that it's very difficult to tell whether or not you're dealing with legitimate law enforcement or ICE agents. We've already had people attempt to impersonate ICE agents in the past, and the thing that started the protests in Los Angeles last year over ICE was the fact that a bunch of unmarked vehicles, where a bunch of armed men who did not identify themselves came to a day market and they started rounding up people and then taking them away in cars. That is going to start a protest because you don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know if you're actually dealing with secret police or people simply trying to kidnap and rob you. I have less information about Guerrero, but the fact that he was killed in front of his 3-year-old daughter is just insane, and that is a reality that we must not accept. If we are going to gradually accept the reality of having a secret police that does not identify themselves, where they are protected if they kill people regardless of who they are, that's a problem. That's a problem that can get very bad very quickly. That is not too far off from what the KGB were doing in the USSR, where they were disappearing people and killing people in public, and people just simply stopped talking about it. Because after Jonathan Ross killed Renee Good in January, J.D. Vance, Kristi Noem, and Stephen Miller all stated that he had absolute immunity because he was acting within his duties as an agent. That is not necessarily true when it comes to the scope of the law. At the same time, we don't know where Jonathan Ross is. We don't know where the agents who shot Alex Preddy are. We don't know where the agents who shot and killed Araujo and Guerrero are. For that reason, it's been established culturally that if you kill someone while acting as an ICE agent, then you will be protected by the agency. You might even be protected by the FBI, because when the Minnesota State Department was investigating Jonathan Ross, they had to deal with withheld evidence from federal authorities. For the sake of comparison, after Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd on May 25th, 2020, he was arrested 4 days later, on May 29th, 2020. We don't know where Jonathan Ross is, and he's not currently facing any federal charges at this time. The narrative being formed around these killings is also incredibly disturbing. It's downright dystopian. In the case of Alex Preddy, we had video evidence of his death, where he was on the ground subdued by multiple agents, basically defenseless, and then he was shot while he was down. What they're telling people, though, what they've actively been telling people for months now, is that he brandished a firearm on ICE agents. That is a complete lie. He never did such a thing, and yet that is what people are being told, and that is what people are choosing to believe. ICE as an agency has hired 12,000 new agents since the start of Donald Trump's presidency. They've given them usually about 72 days worth of training. So you have an agency that has had a massive surge in numbers and also not very much training. That heavily increases the likelihood of mistakes being made, like what we're seeing right now. At the same time, their policies are simply ineffective or malicious. Their policy of a daily arrest quota of 3,000 arrests per day is not sustainable nor effective. Obama tried an arrest quota policy and he abandoned it because it just encouraged racial profiling over time.